of stepping into ourselves, a gathering of priestesses. Tonight we have with us the Reverend IONE, who is the director of the Ministry of Ma'at. She's, which is a spiritual organization working with women all over the world. She's also the artistic director of the Deep Listening Institute, and she has some wonderful stories to tell us. She works with dreams and has many other interesting things to tell us. I just stopped her from telling a story about her name and said, you get to tell that story on the show. And with us in addition is Dr. Pamela Eakins, PhD, DD. My goodness, you're a glutton for school. She is the author of Tarot of the Spirit and a delightful, lighthearted being. She lives in Northern California these days, whereas IONE lives in sort of mid-New York?
Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley area, okay. The Roosevelt territory. You'll hear a great deal more about these ladies and what they have to say. I know you don't hear me. I'm Gloria Taylor Brown, and I'm the interviewer, and I want to thank you for showing up, and I want to thank everyone who's listening to this later and tell you we really do want you to be supported in your path of being a priestess. So let's begin. I'm kind of halfway calling this a summer school for priestesses. So, IONE, I'm going to give you the opportunity now to tell us how you got your name.
Ah, yes, IONE. Well, IONE is actually my middle name, and I never really used it. Carol was my first name, and I was named for my great aunt, Ionia. I embarked on an amazing project of writing about the foremothers. In fact, I coined that term, foremothers, in his magazine in the 1970s. And people were saying, foremothers? What's that? It's always forefathers. So Foremothers is the name of my book. It is Pride of Family, 4 generations of women of color, American women of color. And I had located my great-grandmother's diary from 1868. And I was launched at that point into research to discover who she was. She was an incredible being who was an author, she was a writer, she was a feminist, an abolitionist who was writing her book in Boston in 1868. I wrote about her and about the women, other women in my family, my mother, my great aunt, who was a doctor in Washington, D.C., who graduated med school in 1903. It took me 20 years. It took me a whole generation to complete the book, to get it actually published. When I completed it, I realized I was no longer Carol, that I was IONE. So I dropped my former husband's last name. I dropped the first name for a while and emerged as IONE, simply IONE. This also connected me to the mythology of the name, because I was teaching at that time, teaching women creative work, and I always wanted people to connect to their myths. So I was saying, I'm going to connect to my own myth, and so I looked up the myth of Io. Actually, it's a Jungian precept, I believe. I looked up the myth of Io, or Io, and discovered such an affinity, such a story. It's my story in all of its forms. She is an Argivian priestess. She's turned into a very beautiful calf, actually. She's a calf, but she's beautiful. And yet she's afraid of her own voice and travels many, many distances out of fear. The patriarchal story is that it's Hera who sends a gadfly after her because she's jealous. So I have shifted that by looking at the actual origins of the myth. Amazing is that Io gets and regains her natural form once she arrives in Egypt after crossing the Bosphorus Sea, which is named for her, after crossing the Ionian Sea, which is named for her. And there she becomes associated with Isis, or Aset, and is the mother of, in some of the stories, the mother of the first pharaohs, and so on and so forth. So,
yeah, I'm very familiar with the story of Isis. I mean, she's right above my head here. But yeah, and one of the things that's interesting about Isis is she was worshipped as far north as Scotland, and as far east as India, and as far south as into Kenya. They have found temples for Isis, and no other goddess with this, just one name like that has been that widespread and worshipped with such love and honor. So that's a great one to have as your alter ego, shall we say?
Yes, so we must honor the trials and tribulations that led her there as well. And so we understand that there are many, many things to connect to on our path. I actually wrote and directed a play called Io and Her and the Trouble with Him, in which I showed that the actual understanding of what was happening, what I understand was happening there in the original myth. Of course, it was an actual person, Io, originally. But the primary thing was that she had neglected to do her duties as a priestess. And that's why Hera was mad. And Hera really wanted her to get on the case, get back on the case, get the water by the river, bring it back to the temple. And her dalliance with Zeus was distracting her.
Yeah, well, I understand that. So I always identified more with Nephthys. So I understand the lure of the dark side. Yeah. So I want to ask you both, because this is a conversation and a question about why would you want to be a priestess? Why did you choose that path, or did that path choose you? And Pamela, I would like you to go first and talk about your choices as to how you sort of ended up in this place with all the letters after your name, and I'm sure there was a university somewhere that was looking for you.
That's funny. That reminds me of one of my teachers who said, "You remember the university at Atlantis, don't you, dear? Don't you remember the university at Atlantis?" How far back does this go? I don't know, but I love your story. I just want to tell you, I love your story, and I love your name. And I see the name, I'm a writer. I love to write, and I love words, and I'm looking at your name, and it's moving across the page, and it's I won. So powerful. I had to throw that in because I love it. I just love it. It's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, so my story, it strikes me too. It's an American story. It's also an American story. It's a different American story, but it's very American. So my name is Pamela Eakins. That is the name that I was given. It's a patriarchal name. That's my father's name. It has, Eakins. It has a lot of heritage associated with that, but it's definitely an American story. And I think the question was, how were we called to the priestesshood? I believe that is the question that we're addressing right now. And my feeling about that is that whatever we are called toward, whatever we are drawn toward, has been calling us from the beginning. And I think for me, I was born to the life of a priestess. And in fact, we're here to celebrate this book. Oh, I have the book someplace around here. I don't know where. There we go. I was going to hold it up. So we're celebrating this book that we both contributed to, that we all contributed to, and that's why we're here. So my story in the book is about being born priestess, because I came in to celebrate the sacred, to do ceremony, to celebrate this cosmos, this universe, and I was not born into a religion. My parents had left their religions. I was not raised in a religion, but I was searching. So I went to all the Christian churches. I went to the synagogue. I chose Buddhism when I was 15. That became my first religion. But my grandmothers, you speak of your foremothers. My grandmothers were psychic. My grandmothers were very much attuned to these energies, and I became very attuned to the mystical. And so even in high school, I was reading poems in the high school cafeteria over in the corner. I had my setup. I was seeing ghosts. I was having seances. I was conducting ceremony for the kids and for the animals, and then that just naturally moved into weddings, births, baby namings, attending the dead, all of it, so there I was. It was like I was just called, and that was all preschool, pre-university. So I was already there. All my life. I've been there. And then there's a long story about school, and I'll tell you the short version of that maybe in a few minutes.
Well, that's interesting, because part of I started my journey when I was 3.5, and I saw a man sitting in my grandmother's dining room, and who's told me to go get Grandma. And I went and got her and told her there was a man sitting out there and he wanted to speak with her. And a few minutes later, she came back into the room crying, and she wanted to know what I had seen. And I said, well, there was an old guy there, and he was kind of sitting at the table. She goes, well, that was my uncle. That was my brother Ed, and he had just passed away, and he came to say goodbye, and that's why he was here. And it was as matter-of-factly said as anything. And shortly after that, she taught me how to read palms and how to read tarot cards, and she always felt I should have that to fall back on.
I love that. I think many of us were called that way. It was part of our young childhood psyche. Yeah.
So it's I think there's a strong female strain of, it's like the priestesshood is, there's a string that goes back and back and back, and we stand on the shoulders of our mothers and of those that have gone before. Because one of the things that I found out later was it was illegal. I mean, not bad, illegal in the state of Florida to own tarot cards whenever she was teaching me to read them.
And it's still illegal in a lot of places.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I smuggled tarot cards into Costa Rica and sold them whenever I was living down there. I didn't know I'd smuggled them. I just thought I took them in my luggage, but it's not allowed to be sold down there.
Yes, interesting.
And you can't collect money for reading them. So it was kind of interesting. So I hear what you're saying, and I hear what both of you are saying. So IONE.
Yes.
Obviously, your string, your parenting, your foremothers brought you forth, but you had a foremother who was a doctor. I mean, she would be a woman of science. So how did you end up here?
Well, I'm a woman of science, too. I often realize that in my healing as a healer that I'm bringing forward her abilities. I was very, very taken with being in her office as a child, and I write about that in my memoir, Private Family. But I would go into, she worked only with women, and she was very proud of that fact. And if a man came to the door, she would say, don't treat men, go down to the doctor down the street. And her office, to me, as a young child, was filled with mystery. Yes, I went into the office when she wasn't there, and just inhaled. It was probably alcohol and things of that sort on the leather of the table and so on. And I was so impressed, and I knew that there was something about women that was so important to me. This particular great aunt was also, her name is Ione Rollendifer, the daughter of the great grandmother who wrote the diary. She also began a home for unwed mothers in Washington, D.C. in the 30s, 40s, and by the 50s I was able to go to that place where all the girls were pregnant. And this was for women of color, because there was no place in Washington, D.C. for women for girls who were pregnant to be cared for. So she began by taking them into her house and helping them out, and then she actually began a home for unwed mothers, which continues to this day in Washington, D.C. as a home for troubled girls. But I had a connection to those women who were pregnant when I was there as a child. That mystery, because I didn't fully understand. And here I am today, so the through line, is today working with women so deeply and so moved by women's lives, beginning women's mysteries after my third trip to Egypt, assisting or supporting women, shall we say, thinking at that point that, well, we've had the women's movement, so maybe there's not that much I have to offer. Well, I discovered that was totally wrong. There was, and it continues to this day, that women need this kind of community. They need a community in which they are supported, in which we are supported at our deepest places, where we can recall our inherent wisdom and bring that forward, where we can learn. So I call it a training in the intuitive and healing arts, because we learn what we already know, all right? But we're learning to really use it, what we know, and not to be afraid of it. So much fear. I also remember the one moment in this very office when I was working with people. I was doing seeing people privately. I've done a 4-year training program called Helix, which is quite wonderful in New York. And seeing patients, tarot, runes, everything was here. And I said to myself, look, I'm not going to be afraid of anything anymore. I'm just going to go for it. And going for it was just full out, channeling everything is a part of what I can do and what I am.
That sounds fabulous. And so, Ione, I'd like you to talk a little bit. I know that you do, I know both of you do schools for priestesses. So what do the young priestesses who are listening to us need to know about this? What is the most important thing that they need to know, or the most that, to realize when they feel this call, that they feel this need to be part of this community? What would you say is the most important thing for them to realize and to know and to learn?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes, I'm speaking to you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, one thing that I learned about community, and that I'd like, and that the women I've been working with seem to have understood as we go along in the years together, is that community is not necessarily what we think it is. And I think that community is necessary, but it's important to recognize that It doesn't mean, and I learned this. I learned this through doing it. Actually, I didn't know that. But after about a year of the first Women's Mysteries, I realized it takes time to form community, and it takes time to realize that you can honor the women in a circle, the women in a community, without totally agreeing with every single thing that they're doing or that they're saying or their belief systems. That you can, and you can actually not like everybody necessarily, uh, but you can recognize that this person is a part of my community and honor that part. And that is a very, very powerful thing that has happened. And I think that young priestesses can begin to understand that it's not about having a fixed understanding of community, but of the ability to embrace many different kinds of women, many different areas of women's lives, many different ancestral lineages that are coming through. And this is a model for healing in the world, I think. A model for community, for larger communities that we live in, that we are different kinds of people, we have different belief systems, and yet this is our community. So this is something that in Women's Mysteries, we're healing ourselves. The concept of continuing to heal ourselves is so crucial, because then that moves out into the larger community. And we're all very different. We do it in very different ways. I love that part of it.
That's lovely. So Pamela, the same question to you. I know that you train young ones too.
Train young ones. I love it. Yes. So I feel that the most important thing for young ones, for adults, it doesn't matter how old people are, is to truly become ourselves and live from the inside out. And I love the title of the book, Stepping Into Ourselves. I just want to fill in just a little bit more of my background, because I did go to the university. I did get a PhD in sociology. I did my dissertation on women's life stages. So right there, that was moving me further and further. And I wound up teaching in health and medicine, sociology of health and medicine. And I was teaching about shamanism, curanderismo, voodoo, many different programs, and what are ways of thinking, points of view, paradigms. And eventually, I wanted not to teach about those things, but to be inside it. So I wanted to say that. So I found myself moving ever more deeply. So this was at the University of Colorado, and then I came to Stanford. Well, at Stanford, I had a grant to work on out-of-hospital birth, which took me even deeper. And then I became the director of a childbirth center. And as Reverend Ione mentioned, nothing will take us faster into the mystery than childbirth. Birth or death, you know, the two ends of the spectrum. So I was at many births. I'm in the goo with the midwives, you know, and bringing through those energies. You know what I'm talking about. And so this kept awakening. And then along the way, I met these mysterious women. So I have to throw that in, because the women are the ones who they they were the ones, they pulled me in. The first woman was a woman named Oni. And this, I was kind of a briefcase carrying person. And let me tell you, I was trying so hard to be a briefcase carrying person. And I mentioned to you, I was born to be a priestess, so this was kind of hard for me, you know. Anyway, so I meet this woman, Oni, and she says to me, this is in the early 80s, and the women's spirituality movement had just begun, and I was right there. I was standing right there when the whole thing happened. And she told me, I can't tell you the story, it would take us hours, but she basically dragged me out of my life temporarily. I apprenticed with her for 6 months, and she's the one who said to me, you're going to write a book on the Tarot, and Kabbalah was what we were studying. And I said, oh, I can't. You know, that's, no, that will ruin my career. Oh, you're going to do it all right. You're going to do it all right. Finally, I did. You know, here I have to plug it. This is Tarot of the Spirit, and that came from Oni. Only 6 months of apprenticeship with her. Then I fell into an apprenticeship with Shekinah Mountain Water, 5 years, Women's Mysteries. Then I did another one with Roberta Herzog, 25 years. And with Roberta Herzog, I studied the interfaith, non-denominational religion. So I was still studying everything, and Eastern and Western, everything, and immersing. So throughout that time, I started writing too. And so I was here's another plug, Priestess. And this is, you can get this, the audio version of this through this program. But I wrote Priestess, this is in the 80s, in Tarot of the Spirit, and kept going further. Well, that was the jump off point, because you can't do these things and stay in a place like Stanford. So I sort of knew that, and yet I needed to be in my soul. And so I started teaching. I was writing about it and teaching. I had, even simultaneously while I was in academia, I had women's circles. So, you know, this goes back, the women's circles go back 30 years, where we're celebrating the seasonal cycles. You know, we're doing this deep work. I work with men too, not only women. It's mostly women, and I'm in so much gratitude to the women. But the circle is big, and like Ione said, the circles have changed, because now we also have internet circles. And I have a Kabbalistic mystery school now too, online. So I teach online worldwide. So the world is our circle. The cosmos is our circle. Last thing I want to say right now is that for me, it's not only about stepping deeply, deeply, deeply into ourselves, but the key and the most important part for me, and the part that I'm completely focused on now, is, and this is why I think what we're doing is still so important, is the evolution of consciousness. It's like we are bringing that forward. We are evolving consciousness through what we're doing, through the path that we've taken, through the zeitgeist of our time, everything we've been through, and we are bringing that forward, and we are offering it. And if we are preaching to the choir, so to speak, yes, go for it, because nobody needs more support than our sisters. So hallelujah to our sisters, and I bless all the sisters, and here we are together, which I just absolutely love. So young sisters, join us. Come on in, and young brothers too. You know, wherever you are, let's create this new world. Let's do it. We're doing it.
I think that's a good point, and you know, one of the points that, you know, I've been in circles for over 30 years now, and I'm not going to talk about how many more than 30, but you know, there was a time whenever it was very hidden and underground, and it wasn't something that you let anybody know. Mm-hmm. And now it's much more open and out there, and you go to the ceremonies and people are talking about it, and they're talking about how they got time off from their job to come to this, and they had to tell their bosses and explain to their bosses what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And you know, they may not agree with them, and in our Christian-centric country here, sometimes you get a little bit of a lecture, but most people were open and understanding. One of my dear friends refers to the Episcopalian Church as the Episcopagan Church, because it has so many rituals and understandings in it that it gives you the opportunity to explore where you may want to go. So I think that, you know, it's fascinating how you've both, from very different points of view, sort of come to the same place, and created this life that revolves around your priestesshood. And so I'd like you to talk now from the position of, both of you are, in a sense, I mean, we all are. I mean, let's get real here. We're all the elders. You know, we've been here a long time. We fought the battles, we've got the scars, and we are we're at the point where we're passing on to our children and our children's children. So, as the elders, what is it you see for yourself going forward? Okay, Pamela, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. I say number one is stand in your truth. I'm telling this to myself because we talk about this a lot in our circles, and one of my mantras that I'm repeating is claim your power as an elder. This is to the elder women. Claim your power. Step into your power. Your life is deeply meaningful. Share that. And for me, I think one of the greatest things, and I think we would all agree on this about getting older, is that we are no longer worried about other people's opinions. We have very little fear at this point in our lives. We are going to say what we believe, but also what we believe is a long time coming. It's a long time coming. A lot of immersion, a lot of experience. And I would say, I mean, what I'm trying to do as an elder is I'm getting material out. I mean, I'm teaching. I'm teaching online. I've got a lot of books. I'm working on a new book on the evolution of consciousness, and just trying to get that material out. And then I do have little children around me, and I am wanting to bring them up with a sense, an unparalleled sense, let me put it that way, of awe and wonder of this world, this cosmos, this beauty, this universe, this place that we inhabit, and in fact that we are. We are universe. That's one of the things I'm talking about a lot. We are universe. It's not out there somewhere. And I want my babies, my grandchildren, and the other children around, they feel like my babies. I want them to come up with that sense of awe and wonder and appreciation for the world around them, for the people around them, for the languages around them, for all the cultures, just immersion in that as much as possible. That's my feeling about being an elder, and I love it. It's like being a grandma. You get to be a grandma of the cosmos at a certain point. Okay, end of my story. Not really. I can go on forever, girls.
Oh. Because it's the universe. It's big as the universe, and I feel that, Patricia. Yeah. I feel very similarly to you, and it's just, I feel a great kinship, sistership, eldership with you. Well, I did this book. This book just came out, Spellbreaking, Remembered Ways of Being, and this has got 20 of the women that I work with in it, including women who are going to be on this program, wonderful Andrea Goodman, Reverend Andrea, and Reverend Rachel Koenig. This represents the stories of these women, and the moments of breaking through, moments of transformation in each of their lives. And there are women in here who were afraid of being a priestess, or that anyone would know, who moved out of that. And my sense is that that I'm holding the hands of these women. It takes patience. It takes love and patience, and not being in a hurry. To see change, but to know that we are making an enormous difference in the world just through being. So that the job, the essential task of a priestess is to be, which sounds simple, but it's not so simple. It's a very profound element of priestessing. And so I'm seeing myself creating more books. There's another book coming. There's a book related to dreams, and more spell-breaking books. I'm also moving this out into the world in terms of performance, and we've done readings that have music and sound and performance, and so the next several of the next versions will be on stage. So that's going to be provide more fuel for these women, and for somehow or other, this gives me just complete joy to be a producer in that sense. So that's part of what I'm doing. More books, more teaching. Right now we have 34 priestesses who are in different countries. I teach in France, getting ready to go to Prague to do Memory Secrets and Immortality, which is one of the ministry's programs, creative program, a crucible for the creative in all of us, because in all of these circles, there's that piece for me is so important, and in all the private work that I do. I'm always wanting to bring forward the creative spark as a healing spark, because I feel that as our connection to the divine. So the creativity as our connection to the divine. So there's always the creative in everything that I'm putting forth.
Okay, I just sent out a new link to people, and I would appreciate it if you would mute yourselves. Charlene and Leslie, you just came into our hangout here. If you'd mute yourself. No, Pamela, not you.
Oh, I thought she was talking to me. We want to talk to Leslie and Char.
How do I mute myself?
If you mouse up towards the top, there's a bar that will show up that has like what looks like a microphone, and if you click on that, it will mute it.
Can I just be really quiet, because I can't?
Okay, just be really quiet. All right, thank you. Obviously, the link I sent out actually brought them into the hangout. We've had people who are desperately wanting to get on this hangout with you, and the link wasn't working. It was just sitting there grinding away. So we got you on, Pamela, tonight, but we couldn't seem to get on our attendees. And so what I've been dealing with for the last 15 or 20 minutes is sending people links to try and get on, and regretfully they weren't working. So finally I just copied the link of the hangout where we are and sent that. And two people were, Barbara, can you mute your microphone, please?
I don't know how to do it, I'm sorry.
Okay, just be quiet then, if you wouldn't mind, unless you have something to add. So anyway, we're going to have a few people joining us that we weren't expecting, but that's okay. It's always fun. This is the joy of doing a live show. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to be there. So,
you know something, Gloria, I also wanted to mention technology as a great bonus in my future as well. And I know that also doing that, understanding that as well. That the technology is our friend, enabling us now to do so much throughout the world. You know, we have online circles, we have webinars, we have ability to connect to the priestesses in all these countries. In a circle that's right downstairs, you know, I can bring in the women from Egypt, from France, from Australia, from Italy, Switzerland, and so on. So that is a great joy and great plus. And I see that developing more and more as we go along. So many people
we're about to hit maximum, so anybody who can mute your phone, please do so. Margaret, can you mute? There's a mute right up the top. I see you. And I thank you all, and I'm sorry we had so much trouble getting you on tonight. Actually, this is kind of interesting. Well, an experiment here.
I think Pamela has frozen, though.
No, Pamela's still here.
I'm here. I'm not quite frozen, but I'm muting myself because I recognize most of the people who have logged on, and it's so exciting to see, because that's the proof of these people from all over the world, different parts of the world. So this is quite the experiment. It is. It's so interesting. Anyway, I love it.
It's an opportunity for different people to get together in a way that a year ago this would have cost $5,000 to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you understand why I want to do it with the Google Hangouts? Is because 1 year ago, in June 16th, Google came out with the Hangouts. Prior to that, it cost $5,000 to set up a 10-person video conference call.
Yeah, it's going to become easier and easier and cheaper, and that's a way of being now.
Yeah. So anyway, and of course, you know, being a priestess, $5,000 is just not doable for 17 calls, as I'm doing with the stepping into ourselves. And I'm delighted that we have the opportunity to speak to people all over the world. Anyway, so let's go on with this. So sorry you folks didn't get to come in earlier. You'll have to watch some of the show on the replay. So IONE.
Yeah.
I guess the question now is, where do we go from here? Where do we as priestesses go from here? Not just you, but personally, but us as priestesses.
When you say that, well, we've just told our vision, each of us, our vision for the future, which incorporates some of, I think you're asking. My sense is that we are. It's very important that we maintain the understanding that we are making an enormous difference in the world just through who we are.
Uh-oh, somebody muted you. Carol, IONE, you're muted. IONE, you're muted, honey. I don't know how. I'm going to let you figure it out, and I'm going to bring Pamela back up. So Pamela, can you speak so I can see if you can, you're muted?
I can speak. So this is such an adventure, and I want to tell all of you ladies who are out there listening, we had a really hard time setting this up. So what you're seeing is, like, it's really good that it's going and that we got this far, and it's going to get better and better and better as the learning curve lessons. So anyway, but it's great. We can communicate like this. So it is thrilling. It's thrilling. So I want to say what I want to bring forward, and so much of this comes out of Kabbalah for me, but what I'm bringing forward now is the new paradigm. I mean, I think we're all bringing forward the new paradigm. And I'm doing it in a very particular, very specific way. So I'm teaching that, I'm writing about it, and part of what I specialize in is questions. So it's like, okay, what is the question for you rather than the answer for you? So the paradigm has to do with developing ourselves from the inside out, questioning ourselves and finding the answers within, and receiving those answers. That's the feminine. That's the feminine, is receive, 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 and work with what is coming up within us and bring that forward. And so I intend to do that as long as I have time on this planet to do that. And I'll just mention this book this is my magnum opus that I finished recently, The Lightning Papers, and I know you can't see it probably because I'm pretty small in the corner because I think that's also a technical difficulty.
No, actually, you're full screen, so
No, am I? Oh,
Yeah,
see,
you're
I'm
big.
seeing that's see, I can't see myself. I'm seeing beautiful Ione and beautiful Gloria, but I can't see myself. Okay, good. All right, then you can see that. The Lightning Papers. Okay, very good. I'm kind of glad I can't see myself. You know what? That works out okay. Don't get intimidated, anybody. But it's about bringing forward the way that we can follow, or a way that we can follow to move upon a step-by-step path of development. And that is one of the things I suppose that I have to offer as an elder now, is I've spent a lifetime learning this path and developing this path. So that is the path I'm on. And I work with people individually, one-on-one. I work with people in groups. I actually have groups in Northern California. I'm just south of San Francisco. And then I also do online classes. And so, yes, and so please get in touch with me. I just like to say, please get in touch with me. You can log on to PamelaEakins.net. That's one way. Or tarotofthespirit.com, and you can go on to Tarot of the Spirit and get free readings. That's my favorite thing. Free readings for you. You just log in, and there will be your you won't get it instantly because it comes from me. It's a real stuff from me. So you're going to get that, and also the Lightning Spiral Mystery School. So it's lightningspiral.com. Okay, and I just want to add, we don't have a whole lot of time, but if we do have any time, I'm sitting here with the Tarot of the Spirit with the tarot cards, and I'd love to pull a card for anybody if you're interested, but I'm not sure where we're headed right now. But anyway, here we go.
I would like to give Ione the opportunity to tell us what she was saying whenever she mysteriously, magically was muted out. I have no idea why that happened, so as I was telling Pamela earlier today, any sufficiently advanced technology is akin to magic.
Yes, well, it is our magic. Yeah, well, I believe that what I was saying was that this particular, that we were talking more about the technology as being our friend. And our friend in terms of expansion of who we are throughout the world. And I'd love to let you know about the dreaming connection, because one of the things that I discovered is that I am so connected to dreams and dreaming that they're a part of every single thing that I do, including the plays and the writing that I do, the books and so on. And so the teaching on dreams is really about dream community, and I'm wanting people to understand that this marginalized aspect of our society is coming to the forefront. So creating dream community really is assisting us in leading more authentic lives and to connecting to the true depths of our being, including the creative aspects of our being, the creativity that is in all of us. The dreams are our deepest source of creativity as well. And so dream community means simply sharing our dreams with each other and bringing an awareness of dreams, so that we are no longer afraid of dreams. I find so much fear around dreams in our society. This is one of my books, is Listening in Dreams. It's actually a double book of Listening in Dreams, and This is a Dream. And the fear, I think, has been caused probably by Freud, all by himself. Fear around dreams, that there's something wrong and that you don't want to pay attention because of this, that, and the other. So I'm wanting to lift off judgment. So I have this expression called LOJ, lift off judgment, around dreams and dreaming, and beginning to pay attention to the feelings of our dreams, because they are always telling truth. So dreams never lie in that sense, no matter what. Even if you don't know what the stories mean, you know what the feelings are. And the feelings are crucial to us, since we are so armored in our society. We're armored, and of course it's protection, it's protective armor. But what happens is that we begin to forget exactly what's going on inside our very selves. The dreams are there to assist us in that, with that, and they're always telling us something important about those feelings.
So what I would like to do is, Ione has a dream meditation for us to end this with. So before we go to that, Pamela, why don't you pull 3 cards for us and just give us a group reading?
Okay. Well, I'd love to say, too, to Ione and to everybody, I love the idea, Ione, of turning our lives, our 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, into a lucid dream. And moving inside that dream, because I really feel your energy about that dream, the dream time and the importance of that. And it's like, yes, let's dream it. Let's dream the world. Let's dream the future. Let's keep making this thing happen, and together. You know, it is extraordinary. And we're just bringing it alive, and let's just continue to bring it alive and celebrate the community bringing it alive. Celebrate our sisters bringing it alive. Okay, so here we go. We'll just do a small reading for ourselves, and this reading is going to be where we're headed, basically on the path. So what we need to deal with. So we're going to make it really short, and let's just see what happens. Okay, I'm sort of shuffling the cards here in front of the computer. Okay. Oh, I love it. Okay, so the issue that we are dealing with, okay, you have to know Tarot of the Spirit to get this, but this is Fire Mother. Well, she's the spiritual teacher. She is the spiritual teacher. So it's all about becoming a spiritual teacher. What does it mean? And sitting down with the, she's sitting with a lion, and it's like sitting with the thing that could kill you, but making it work, serving, and finding out what your power is about. The action we can take, death, the death card. Die to all that needs to go. I'm going to make this very simple. And the new is going to be born out of that. But don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid to let go. Oh, and the answer, this is the outcome for us. The Lovers. So we move into a new level, a new level of love, which basically has 3 layers to it. It's integrating all the opposites within ourselves, falling into love with the community, with our family, our friends, our sisters, our partners, everybody. And then the 3rd level would be moving into the most beautiful, immaculate love of the cosmos that has ever been. So we'll end on that note with the Lovers and take it back to, how do we become spiritual teachers? Die to everything that needs to go and be born as a lover walking on this planet. This will be my last word, since we're going to move into a dream now with Reverend Ione. Here's my last word to all of you. Be love walking.
Lovely. So Ione, if you would take us into close with your beautiful dream meditation and send us into the night.
Yes. Well, I'd like you to consider the concept of listening to the dreaming heart, a continuation of the love that Pamela has mentioned and has emitted here. listening to the dreaming heart. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes gently for a moment and bringing in a most wonderful spiritual being that really feels important for you this evening. Just imagine bringing in that energy, that being to you now as your breathing begins to deepen a little and your eyes are just a little bit they're closed but not tightly, and you can feel yourself breathing. You can sense the breath within you, and you can imagine perhaps that this being, this special being who is there for you, perhaps someone that you know very well already spiritually, or someone new, is surrounding you with a very beautiful color that is healing to you this evening. And as the color surrounds you, it is translucent, it has its own aliveness, and it's allowing you to feel goodness in places in your body, mind, and spirit. Goodness that is there, residing there within you. And as you're breathing and feeling this, you may be able to recall a most important dream that you've had in your life, an important and perhaps a very special dream that you've had at a certain time in your life. It could have been a long time ago. Perhaps you were a child. Or it could be a dream that's more recent. Just noticing that on the breath you can allow this dream to arise, to emerge. And as you are feeling this dream, notice what the feelings of the dream are. Noticing the feelings of this dream. Noticing that you can actually listen for these feelings, listen to these feelings at the heart of the matter. Receiving the message of these feelings at this time in your life. Or whatever dream you have chosen, and whatever feelings you're feeling now that are being transmitted through all of our hearts. Whatever dream has come is the dream that contains the clues, the messages, so important right now, crucial right now for your healing, for our healing as a group as well. So noticing the dream, noticing the feelings, listen to your dreaming heart, and take a few moments as this closes, this beautiful evening together closes. Afterwards, jot down for yourself the feelings of the dream, the message from the dream, the message from the beautiful spiritual being who is around you, surrounding you now with healing color. And we take a moment to release this with great love, remembering what you need to remember about Priestess, remembering what you need to remember. And so be it, and so it is.
Aho Matakuyasan. I'm just going to say thank you both so much. This was an absolutely wonderful evening, even though we had technical problems up the kazoo. And I hope the people that have to listen to it on the replay will enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, IONE. You were both incredibly, wonderfully beautiful. And I look forward to spending many years being your sisters. So thank you so much. And I want to thank all the audience that did manage to make it here. And Leslie James, I want to thank you particularly because you managed to figure out how to mute people other than yourself. And I really appreciate that. We'll appoint you as the goddess of technology. But thank you so much for being here this evening, and I hope everyone who's been here has gained understanding and wisdom. And please come back next Monday night. I'll try and make sure that we have better links and better opportunities for you to be there when we have Rabbi Jill Hammer and Lorraine Shine, who is a poetess. And they are both incredible women and will bring a completely different aspect of being a priestess to the show. So thank you all, and good night.
Good night.